What if I told you that heavy metals like mercury and lead could be slowing down your long COVID recovery? Most people don't realize that these toxins can cause ongoing fatigue, brain fog, and inflammation. In this video, I'll break down how heavy metals impact your body and why detoxing them is critical to finally overcoming long COVID. Let's dive into how you can get rid of these metals and start healing faster. Hello, and welcome to this growing community of people who are ready to heal from the symptoms that conventional medicine doesn't have answers for. I am Carrie Bailey, your functional nutritionist. I help people recover from long COVID and resolve weird mystery symptoms through therapeutic nutrition, herbs, and targeted supplements. Let's first talk about what heavy metals are. Heavy metals are things like lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, and aluminum that in excessive amounts are harmful to our health. Unlike trace minerals, things like zinc and iron, which in small amounts is important to our health, heavy metals don't serve any beneficial purpose in the body and can disrupt vital processes when they accumulate. So where are we getting exposed to these heavy metals? Well, there's about 6 places we're going to talk about today. The first is the air. Pollutions from car exhaust, industrial emissions, and burning coal can release these metals like mercury, lead, and cadmium into the air. And once these metals are in the air, we can breathe them from the air. They can also settle down on surfaces, onto our food that is growing in the fields. We can breathe in these airborne heavy metals from pollution, from smoking, from industrial settings, or even from a house that might have used lead paint in the past. There can be mercury vapors in industrial emissions. These can be inhaled and then absorbed into our bloodstream. Water is another source that we are exposed to heavy metals. So this can be contaminated waters. Things like arsenic and lead are often in waters. I'm sure you remember the thing in Michigan when there was a bunch of lead exposure there. Contamination of arsenic and lead can come from natural deposits in the soil, from industrial waste, or from old piping systems. Pipes used to be made of lead as well. And heavy metals can get into the body from contaminated water. Either you're drinking contaminated water from these old pipes, or lead or arsenic. From the groundwater can also be a source. Another source of exposure for heavy metals is soil. Soil, it's often found either from the fallout from the pollution from the sky. Pesticides and fertilizers also use heavy metals, things like cadmium. And cadmium can actually be absorbed by the plant and contaminate our food supply. When you're gardening in your own garden, you might want to consider using gloves to avoid any soil contamination in your own backyard. Because who knows, even if you were living in an old house, even if you're living in a new house, what was there before your house? Our foods can also be contaminated, especially things like fish and seafood can be contaminated with mercury because our seafood and our lakes have a lot of mercury in them as well. Processed foods can contain trace amounts of metals, either from contaminated water or from the equipment they use to process the foods. Around your house, there's a few risks. Things like batteries, older paint, any kind of lead-based paint, and then cosmetics. These all can contain heavy metals. So handling these products or being around them, you can inhale the dust and these heavy metals. If wearing cosmetics that contain heavy metals, it's easily absorbed in through your skin. And the last possible exposure of heavy metals are either dental or medical exposures. So when you are going to the dentist, do you have mercury amalgam fillings? Or are they putting them in or taking them out? And then any medications can have, especially like vaccines, can have trace amounts of metals and slowly release into the body over time. Why are these heavy metals so harmful? So once these heavy metals are inside the body, they can accumulate in the tissues like the brain, the bones, the liver, and the kidneys. And once they're there, they are at the cellular level. They're interfering with cellular processes and causing damage to the organs themselves. They can also cause oxidative stress, which leads to inflammation, which then leads to symptoms of fatigue, brain fog, and joint pain. This impacts the nervous system. It can lead to cognitive issues. And the immune system also is weakened by these heavy metals inside the body. Heavy metals they're like invisible toxins. They can sneak in through the body. You can breathe them through the air. You can eat them on your food, and that you don't even see them or feel them even going into your body, even the things we touch. Let's talk about, first off, how to prevent these exposures, and then we'll get into what you can do to get them out of your body. The first thing you want to do is you want to reduce your exposure to air pollution. Now, this is tricky if, like me, you live in a polluted place, but you can do things like avoid smoking. Hopefully nobody's out there smoking, but if you are smoking, avoiding smoking. And this includes cigarettes, marijuana, e-cigarettes, things like that. Cigarettes contain cadmium and other toxins that can go into the lungs and into the bloodstream. You want to minimize your pollution exposure. So if you have a choice between riding your bike or going on a walk on a busy street versus going into a neighborhood or ideally into a park where there's no traffic at all, right? The ideally is to, again, try not to do those heavy exposures where there's heavy traffic and industrial emissions. So if you know there's an industrial plant near you, go the other side of town for your walk. In your own house, you can clean the air by using air purifiers. These can reduce your exposure to airborne heavy metals. Be cautious with home dust. So you live in a home that was built before 1974. It can contain lead paint. And you want to make sure you dust regularly. And when you dust or vacuum, you want to use a HEPA filter. So when you vacuum all that dust up, it's not spitting it back out on the other side of the vacuum cleaner and putting it back out into your house. You want to get into the HEPA filter, which is going to capture it. And so you can put it in the trash. You want to ensure that the water that you're drinking is very clean. You want to make sure you're using a high quality water filter that's going to remove contaminants like lead, arsenic, and mercury. Now, one of my favorite filters is a reverse osmosis water filter, which is great, but it is so efficient that it's not only going to get rid of those heavy metals, it's also going to get rid of healthy trace minerals that you need to be healthy. And so it's important that you add minerals back, either adding trace mineral drops or adding a remineralizer to add those needed minerals back into your water. It's important to avoid high-risk foods. So you want to choose low mercury seafood. So large fish like tuna, swordfish, and shark have very high mercury levels, whereas smaller fish like sardines and salmon are very low in mercury. They are not free of mercury, they're just lower in mercury. And you always want to be sure that when you're choosing your fish, that they're always wild and not farmed. Wild fish are going to be less polluted than your farmed fish. Other ways to avoid the risks of heavy metals is to always choose organic and local produce as much as possible. So buying organic produce whenever you can to avoid your exposure to pesticides, things like cadmium, for instance, can be in the food. You can also choose to grow your own food, right? And just when you do, just be sure to use natural fertilizers. You also, as much as possible, want to buy locally, because if your produce has to come from Mexico and you live in New York, that's going to be much further to come than like if you live in California and you're buying in California. So the further it has to travel, the more it's going to be exposed to fallout from the sky and from the air and being on the road and things like that. You might actually want to avoid rice altogether or minimize your rice, because rice is high in arsenic. For you might want to avoid rice altogether, or rinse your rice really good before you cook it. Be mindful of the consumer products that are around your house. Check your cosmetics, run them through. I love the Environmental Working Group's Healthy Living app. They rate things on sort of risks and dangers from a 1 being good to a 10 being bad. And so run their cosmetics, look at that to choose your cosmetics, or check the ones that you're already using. So in cosmetics, it's lipsticks and eyeshadows that contain the most heavy metals. These can contain lead and mercury. And I would say look for natural brands, but I have a story when my kids were little. I thought Burt's Bees, because I checked a few Burt's Bees products and they seemed clean. So then I thought all Burt's Bees products were clean. Well, come to find out, I had given them when they were 5 years old or something, and they wanted a lip gloss. And so I got them a lip gloss. And when I checked it in the environmental working group, it was like a 9. So not everything from Burt's Bees or any other company is clean. So make sure, unless you know that it's a clean brand. In the kitchen, you want to replace any old cookware. Avoid any cookware that is damaged, where the metal is exposed or the pan is made of metal and you're scraping it. You want to opt to choose stainless steel cookware, or ceramic is the one I really like. Sometimes the ceramic is around aluminum. I haven't seen it any other way, but the ceramic coating is a good, safe way. You want to limit your contact to electronics and batteries. Now, this is kind of hard to say in our day and age, but there's heavy metals like cadmium and lead. So it could be in your computer, on your iPad, on your phone, right? The less you touch them or have them on your lap, right? Have them off a ways, use a separate keyboard, and keep these products away from your body physically in order to avoid electronics, and make sure you dispose of them through e-waste recycling. When you go to the dentist, and let's say you need a filling, you're going to want to talk to them about what the options, mercury-free filling options are. Right now, there are 2 options. There's composite or porcelain. And there's something called ceramic as well. And I believe the ceramic has heavy metals in it, but the composite and the porcelain should be safe. Now, if you already have existing mercury heavy metals in your mouth, mercury amalgam fillings, you're going to want to be really careful with the timing of when you take those out. You're going to want to find a biological dentist to remove them. And you might not want to remove them when you're already sick. You might want to wait till you do some more healing from your long COVID before you take out your amalgam fillings. And if a filling falls out or it needs to be replaced, again, talk to your dentist about the safest way to make those changes, and the timing of it as well, because you don't want to do it if you're sick. When it comes to vaccines and medications, be informed. Ask to read the insert, understand the ingredients in your vaccines, understand the ingredients in your medication, look them up on Google, make sure that you understand and feel comfortable with them. Talk to your doctor about what's in there so that you can be sure that you minimize your exposure to mercury. In like old vaccines use mercury, and I believe the last time I checked, the flu vaccine still uses mercury. It'll say, unless it doesn't, it'll say thimerosal free. So just got to ask a lot of questions and look out for yourself. And let's get into how to detoxify these heavy metals. Let's support your body's detoxification pathways and help remove accumulated heavy metals. So there's some functional and some natural approaches I'm going to talk about. So food-wise, the best thing you can do is to increase your overall fruit and vegetable intake. Ideally, you're eating 90% fruits and vegetables. The fiber in fruits and vegetables helps bind to the heavy metals and assist them in eliminating them through your digestive system. Things like leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, kale. Also, why fruits and vegetables are so great is they are nutrient dense. These nutrients like phytochemicals and B vitamins and zinc and vitamin C not only protect your body from the damage of heavy metals, they also open up your detoxification pathways so that you can eliminate those heavy metals. The other thing that's important for detoxification is to choose sulfur-rich foods if you're not sulfur sensitive. If you're sulfur sensitive, leave a comment below and we can chat about it. But foods like garlic and onions, cruciferous vegetables, these will support your detoxification pathway and the processes and help you remove heavy metals through increasing bile flow. So the bile is what your liver releases to help not only break down fat, but to help you eliminate toxins. Fruits and vegetables is they hydrate you, right? So not only are you drinking hopefully lots of fluids and waters, we'll talk about that in a second, but hopefully you're also eating lots of fruits and vegetables, which are rich in water naturally, as well as nutrients. So you're going to be getting really well hydrated. In order to detoxify those heavy metals out of the cell, you need to be hydrated. In addition to eating lots of fruits and vegetables, you want to decrease your overall fats. And this is to thin your blood to make it easier to remove the toxins through all routes: pee, poo, sweat, and breathe. You cannot detoxify heavy metals on a carnivore, a keto, or other high fat diet, period. You also want to increase your overall fluids. You want to be drinking plenty of water so those toxins get washed out and don't get recirculated into your body. This means drinking lots of clean filtered water so that you support your kidneys and flushing the toxins through your kidneys. Other acceptable forms of hydration are herbal teas. You want to stop as much as possible all caffeinated drinks because that's going to dehydrate you. So you want, and it's going to make you more acidic, and it's not going to help with detoxification. You want to drink green juices, coconut waters, even fruit juices. The absolute best resource for removing heavy metals from your body is, drumroll, my long COVID recovery guide. I created this amazing tool for you, my long COVID community here on YouTube. And this guide has my key supplements and key foods to detoxify those heavy metals and recover from long COVID. There is a link in the description, in the comments below, so check it out. There are 2 lifestyle habits that are great for detoxifying, and that is to sweat it out. So sweating it out, you can do that 2 ways. One is from regular use of an infrared sauna. This will support detoxification by promoting sweating. And this is one, and we talked about pee, poo, sweat, and breathe, but don't overdo it. Make sure you're well hydrated before you go into the sauna. If you've been on a high fat diet for a long period of time, make sure you're well hydrated before you sauna. And when you sauna, you might need to start with 5 minutes. You might need to just slowly work your way up, but don't overdo it. That's going to stress your adrenals if you go in too high and you're not hydrated. Exercise is another great thing. Again, if you're up to it physically, regular physical exercise promotes circulation and sweating. And this supports your natural elimination of toxins. But again, don't overdo it. Understand that if you're pushing yourself too hard, you're going to stress your adrenals. So take it to whatever level. And if you cannot exercise, just skip that part and get to it when you can. All right, there are 2 things that I want you to avoid when it comes to detoxifying. And these are 2 binders that are used pretty heavily out there that are problematic. And I want to go over them. One is activated charcoal. And the reason you want to avoid it is that it suffocates the intestinal lining. So what that means, it's kind of putting down this sheet, and it's preventing you from assimilating and absorbing the nutrients you're getting from your food. So this is basically leading to nutrient deficiencies, right? And this also suffocates any good bacteria, good microorganisms in the gut, which allows the bad bacteria, unwanted microorganisms to thrive. Charcoal does not bind to heavy metals, and it does not remove heavy metals. And it can take weeks to remove this charcoal from your digestive tract, which is going to cause havoc while it's in there. The number 2 binder to avoid is zeolite. So zeolite cannot cross the blood-brain barrier, which there's a lot of toxins up here, especially in long COVID. You've got all these neurological issues. There's a lot of toxins here, and it can irritate the gut lining. It can cause dehydration and vagus nerve sensitivities. Zeolite is a great binder in that it binds to heavy metals. The problem is it also binds to the very important trace minerals that you need, the things we talked about earlier, the zinc and the iron. So it doesn't discriminate. It just binds to all of them and excretes them. So in the meantime, you're going to be dehydrated, and you're going to be depleting your minerals, which are so important for the function of your nervous system. Okay, I would be remiss if I missed this last point, which is you want to prevent the reabsorption during detoxification. So it's really important that you're having regular bowel movements, that you're not constipated whatsoever. You should be going at least once a day, if not more. You want to make sure that you're not reabsorbing those metals once you've gotten them out of your system. If you follow the recommendations here and also the recommendations I lay out in the long COVID recovery guide, you will be pooping at least once a day, if not more. In conclusion, preventing heavy metal exposure involves making mindful choices about the air we breathe, the food and the water we consume, and the products we use on our skin. We want to be able to support the body's natural detoxification through diet, supplements, and lifestyle practices, which is going to help remove accumulated heavy metals. If exposure has been significant, you want to make sure that you're working with a functional nutritionist, someone like myself, for more intensive detoxification. It may be needed, but I give you everything you need to get started in the long COVID recovery guide in the comments and the description below. If you found this video helpful, like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. If you would like to watch more of my videos, check out this next video here picked just for you. I'm on a mission to help more than 1 million people with my videos. So please share this video with someone that you think might benefit. That's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. Bye for now.